Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. So I wanted to react to this audio. It's from a school in the UK, Rye College, and it's a teacher talking to two Year 8 pupils. I believe they're 13, and they're talking about gender. And apparently the whole conversation stemmed from another student claiming they identified as a cat. One of the students alluded to them perhaps needing some mental health assistance if that was the case. And this offended the teacher. And she asked them, where did you get that crazy idea that there were two genders? Something to that effect. And, you know, they had the conversation about it, and it was clear that this teacher is rooted in gender ideology, and anything less than her opinion is morally wrong. And that's how it came across to me. So I'm going to react to the conversation, so let's take a look.
How dare you? You've just really upset someone. Saying things like should be in an asylum.
I didn't say that. I just said if they want to identify as a cat or something, then they're like genuinely unwell.
Then they've gone
they're crazy.
You were questioning their identity.
I wasn't a question. I was just saying about the gender. I didn't say anything about them.
But where did you get this idea from that there's only two genders?
I just think it's my opinion.
That is my opinion.
If I respect their opinion, can't they respect my opinion?
It is not an opinion.
Yes,
Yeah, but
It's not an opinion you
There's
can
only two
have.
genders.
Loads of people think there's only two genders.
There's only a boy and a girl.
Literally. There's no other private part. There's only two.
Gender is not linked to do with
There is
the
only two
parts that you were
genders.
born with. Gender is about how you identify, which is what I said right from the very beginning of the
No, I
lesson.
just don't agree with that. So why should I have to listen to something I don't agree with?
Biological sex, there is actually three biological sexes, because you can be born intersex. You can be born with male and female body parts or hormones.
Yeah.
Did you know that?
Yeah, there's three. There's not 300.
Doesn't mean.
Yeah, there's three. I'm talking about biological sex. In terms
Wow. She said there's three, not 300. First of all, these students come across as rational, smart, calm. They're not, being rude. They're not being offensive. They don't come across that way to me at all. They're having a conversation. What happened to creating a safe space for students to express themselves, for students to give their opinion? And by the way, they weren't given an opinion. They were given fact based on biology. There were only two genders. The whole issue of intersex kind of sounded like she threw that in just to bring them down a peg or two, or just to confuse them. But that is a very rare condition, and even intersex people pick a sex. They don't say they're both. They consider that somebody who was born with abnormalities and it needs to be corrected. But they pick a side. They don't, straddle the fence and say I'm non-binary or something to that effect. All of these concepts that this teacher is talking about are new. They're recent ideologies that have crept in, and now we're teaching them in school as if they're fact. I don't know what this class was. I don't know if it was some sort of social studies, maybe citizenship, sex ed, anything related to that. But this teacher is clearly not allowing these kids to give their opinion without being labelled, saying how dare you, and what they're saying is despicable. It's despicable now to say that there are two genders, something that we have believed from the beginning of time. When did we start saying that there were more than two genders? Fairly recently. So don't act as if this is some horrible, offensive thing to say. If you had said there were two genders 5 years ago, nobody would have bat an eyelid. But now it's despicable. Clearly it sounds like they're being taught the right thing at home, that maybe their parents anticipated that this was going to happen. The parents clearly have prepared these kids for what's going on in the world today. That's how it comes across to me. So I commend the parents. And again, they're stating their opinion. They're stating facts very rationally, very calmly, without throwing any labels on anybody. So these two girls, they're a credit to their parents.
in terms of gender, there are lots of genders. There is transgender, there is agender, people that don't believe they have a gender at all.
Yeah, but you can't have that.
You can't have that, it's not a law.
Yeah, but
It's not a law, but it's our opinion. We just don't agree with it. We just think it's all just.
if you have a vagina, you're a girl. If you have a penis, you're a boy. That's
Yeah.
it.
But cisgender is not necessarily the way to be. You are talking about the fact that cisgender is the norm, that you identify with the gender of the sexual order that you're born with, or you're weird. That's basically what you're saying.
Yeah.
Which is
She goes on to say that's despicable, to say that your gender is associated with the sex that you are. This whole sex and gender are not the same thing. Again, I don't even know where that came from. That crept in. Because for the longest time, sex and gender were the same thing. Or at least your gender was based on your sex. What your sexual organs are, what you were born with. That's what your gender was based on. And if you believe that, there's a discrepancy there, before it was, someone like that needs some help, at least for an extensive period of time, before you then go and do anything, that's irreparable to their bodies. That's how it used to be, as far as I'm aware. But now, apparently, your gender is not based on your biology anymore. The teacher may believe that, but you're going to have to accept that majority of people don't believe that your sex and gender are two different things, and, you're born with a vagina, but then you can say that you're a man. You can say you're a man. You can say whatever you want. We have freedom of speech in this country and in the UK. But that doesn't mean that that's what you are, and everyone else has to kowtow to that.
It's really despicable.
How? When it's
If I called my mum right now, my mum would be on my side.
If I called my mum, she'd say.
Well, that's very sad as well then.
How is it?
Loads of people agree with that. There's only a small majority of people who actually think that.
And why do you think we have so many problems in the world with homophobia?
Yeah, but
Because
that's
of
not
people
homophobia,
expressing-
that's gender.
Yeah.
Yes,
I'm
it
fine with
is.
lesbians and gay people.
Same.
I've got nothing against them.
Yeah, same.
But gender there is a link between it, and you're
How?
saying that people
There
can't
isn't
change
one. No, they
who they want
can't.
to be.
They can't.
I'm sorry. Is she being serious? So this is who's teaching our children. This is who is teaching our children, and it's very concerning. You're telling them to ignore science. You're telling them to ignore facts. You're telling them to ignore biology. And it's despicable to say that somebody, their gender is related to their sex. It's despicable to say there are two genders. It's despicable to say that you can't change your biology. Wow. So you're calling them homophobic. You're calling them despicable. You're saying that you really upset somebody. But it doesn't matter if they are upset, though, does it? It doesn't matter if them retraining their brain to ignore facts. And, if that upsets them, that doesn't matter. That's okay. It doesn't matter that whether they're upset about you calling them despicable and homophobic. That doesn't matter. But they have to tiptoe around everybody else who subscribes to this ideology. And there are a lot of people who are subscribing to it, not because they believe it, but because they believe, that if you don't, you're a bad person. Or you're going to be labelled a bad person. If you don't subscribe to it, you're going to face backlash. If the person in authority is labelling you and questioning your morality and trying to tell you that you're despicable for just believing biology, then of course people are going to feel compelled to subscribe to this ideology. Of course people, especially kids, 13-year-olds, are going to subscribe to this ideology for an easier life. Because even the teacher is going to judge you and condemn you if you don't go along with it. Really, in school, you should be taught how to disagree respectfully. That's a real skill.
Unless you
You're
get a
so
penis
wrong.
attached. No, I'm not.
You're confusing sex and gender.
No, I'm not though. Because
Yes,
if you have a
you are.
vagina, you're a girl. If you have a penis, you're a boy.
Yeah, you can't have a vagina and be a girl, but then
Gender-
Unless you
identify
get
as
surgery, and even then,
Gender
because
is
you've got
about
those genes.
how you identity.
I
How
just
you
don't agree with
identify.
it.
Yeah,
I
that's
mean, it's
fine.
not an opinion
Yes,
that we
it is.
express in this
Yes,
school.
it is.
No, it's not. And if you don't like it, you need to go to a different school. So
I did go to a
I'm
different
reporting
school.
you to Miss Willis. You need to have a proper educational conversation about equality, diversity and
I ain't
inclusion.
doing it. My mum
Because
said
I'm
that
not
earlier.
having that expressed in my lesson. When I'm teaching you about you can be who you want to be,
Everyone else
how
thinks
you
it.
identify is up to
So
you.
everyone else
people
thinks it.
think
They
that.
just don't say it because then all
Yeah.
this happens.
Maybe because they're polite and maybe they're sensitive.
I haven't said anything in all of the lessons
I-
I've been in. It's just because they turned around and started saying something. So I said, how can you identify as a cat when you're a girl?
Well,
Yeah.
they're now writing a statement. I would imagine that you'll be asked to write a statement as well.
We will.
Yeah, we will.
So in the name of diversity and inclusion, she's telling them to find a new school. She's telling them that they're going to be reported. She's ostracizing them and excluding them. Inclusion means hearing everybody out. Saying that I won't have that said in my class, again, is silencing them and telling them that their voices don't matter. Their opinion doesn't matter if it doesn't go along with what she believes. How is that inclusion? Only the voices of people who agree with her matter. Apparently saying if you're a boy you have a penis, if you're a girl you have a vagina is offensive to this teacher. And these are the people teaching our children. These are the people who are supposed to be educating our children. If this isn't indoctrination, I don't know what is. Now, this school has been receiving backlash. A spokesperson has spoken to the Daily Mail. A spokesman admitted to the Daily Mail that the teacher should have acted differently by ensuring that pupils' views are listened to and encouraging them to ask questions and engage in discussion instead of angrily shutting down debate on a controversial issue, okay? A spokesman said they would make sure such events do not take place in the future. So the school is a member of the Aquinas Trust, which boasts that one of its key values is promoting equity, celebrating diversity and addressing disadvantage. The Trust's equality lead, Barry Blakelock, is also executive head at Rye College, okay? His official bio reads, Barry believes the best education is an inclusive education where the diversity of the real world is reflected in every classroom to the benefit of all learners. The Trust has already been in the headlines this year over its strongly woke standpoint. Only in February, it was criticised for setting out its plans to re-educate children who make non-PC comments in the playground. The Trust, named after noted medieval philosopher and theologian Thomas Aquinas, set out its move to challenge negative language and actions in its equality, diversity and inclusion policy. By advocating, staff challenge negative language and actions, re-educating and using sanctions where appropriate. And then the spokesperson said, we are committed to offering our pupils an inclusive education. Teachers endeavour to ensure that pupils' views are listened to and encourage them to ask questions and engage in discussion. Teachers also aim to answer questions sensitively and honestly. We strive to uphold the highest standards across the school. We will be reviewing our processes and working with the relevant individuals to ensure such events do not take place in the future. It is understood the girls will not be punished, and the school regards the matter as closed. Andrea Williams of Christian Concern said thousands of children in primary and secondary schools are being forced to absorb extreme LGBT ideology without their parents' knowledge. Students are having to resort to recording what is being imposed on them in the classroom to protect themselves and expose their parents and wider world to what is happening. We will stand with any pupil and family who find themselves on the receiving end of such brazen viewpoint discrimination in the classroom. I don't know, it sounds like teachers are being trained one way, but publicly they're saying they don't agree with how this teacher behaved, but I wonder how often it happens. It sounds like it's a regular occurrence. As this Christian organisation said, these kids are now resorting to recording these conversations because if you don't hear it, you will not believe it. You would never believe that this is happening in schools today to this extent. But, you know, these kids, they did a good job. They were respectful the whole time and they spoke nothing but truth. They spoke facts. And the teacher, you know, she didn't put herself in a good light at all. So let me know what you think. Thanks for watching. Take care of yourselves and God willing, I will see you in the next video.